The Whispered War. The first thing Commander Sarah Chen noticed about the Vorthak was the noise. Not the mechanical hum of their massive dreadnoughts hanging in Earth's outer atmosphere, but the constant psychic chatter that flooded every telepathically capable mind within 100 light-years. Every species in the known galaxy could hear them thinking, planning, boasting about their inevitable victory. Every species except humanity. Chen stood in the war room aboard Terra Station, watching the holographic display show 17 Vorthak vessels in perfect formation. Each ship was 3 times the size of humanity's largest battlecruiser, their biomechanical hulls pulsing with organic energy conduits that seemed almost alive. Admiral Marcus Torres paced behind her, his weathered face grim as reports flooded in from across the solar system. The Vorthak had announced their arrival exactly 72 hours ago with a telepathic broadcast, so powerful it had knocked unconscious every psychic-sensitive alien ambassador on Earth. The message was simple and arrogant. Submit to the Vorthak Empire, or be absorbed by force. Resistance was futile against beings who could coordinate entire fleets through pure thought. What the Vorthak didn't understand was that humanity had never developed telepathy. They assumed this made humans primitive, deaf to the sophisticated communications that governed galactic civilization. They were wrong on both counts. Dr. Elena Vasquez looked up from her quantum communication array, her eyes bright with excitement, despite the dire circumstances. Admiral, we're receiving their tactical communications through the psychic monitoring network. They're not even attempting to encrypt their thoughts. Why would they? They believe we can't hear them. Torres stopped, pacing. What are they planning? Elena's fingers danced across her console, translating the alien thought patterns into readable data. Warlord Krex Thul is coordinating a standard absorption protocol. They'll disable our defensive satellites, then broadcast a mass compliance signal to make our population docile. After that, it's simple occupation and resource extraction. The irony wasn't lost on any of them. For 3 centuries, humanity had been considered backward because they couldn't participate in galactic telepathic networks. While other species shared thoughts instantly across star systems, humans had been forced to develop quantum-encrypted neural interfaces and multidimensional signal processing. What the galaxy saw as a disability, humanity had turned into the most sophisticated non-telepathic communication system ever conceived. Chen activated her neural implant, connecting instantly to the human defense network. Thousands of minds linked through quantum entanglement, sharing information at the speed of thought without creating any telepathic signature. To the Vorthak, humanity's coordinated response would appear to be nothing more than primitive radio. Chatter Admiral Torres opened a channel to Fleet Command. All vessels implement Protocol Silent Thunder. Make them think we're panicking. Across the solar system, human ships began broadcasting frantic, unencrypted radio messages about evacuation, procedures, and defensive failures. Meanwhile, through their quantum neural network, they coordinated the most precise military operation in human history. The Vorthak took the bait perfectly. Warlord Krex Thul's amusement rippled through his psychic field as he observed the human response. These creatures scurried about like insects, chattering on primitive electromagnetic frequencies while their crude vessels moved in obvious panic formations. How had such a backward species even achieved spaceflight? His second-in-command, Warsinger Thexmore, projected agreement. Their thoughts are so primitive we cannot even detect them, my lord. Shall we begin the compliance broadcast? Wait, Krex Thul decided. Let them attempt their pathetic resistance first. The Empire enjoys watching lesser species struggle before submission. This was exactly what Commander Chen had hoped for. Through the quantum network, she felt the coordinated pulse of human determination. Every ship, every station, every hidden facility from Mercury to the Kuiper Belt was now operating in perfect synchronization. The Vorthak saw chaos, where there was actually the most sophisticated battle coordination in galactic history. The human fleet appeared to flee in random directions, but each movement was calculated to draw Vorthak vessels into carefully prepared positions. Ancient asteroid mining stations suddenly revealed themselves to be weapons platforms. Seemingly abandoned orbital facilities powered up targeting systems that had been disguised as industrial equipment. Elena's monitoring station lit up with intercepted Vorthak communications. "They're confused, Admiral. Krex Thule is trying to understand why our random movements seem to be boxing in his fleet." Torres smiled grimly. "Show them what human silence really sounds like." The attack began with what appeared to be a desperate charge by 3 human destroyers. The Vorthak easily tracked their approach through the pilot's crude radio communications, preparing to demonstrate their superior firepower. What they didn't detect was the quantum coordinate strike package being transmitted through humanity's invisible network. The destroyers opened fire with conventional weapons exactly as expected. The Vorthak shields absorbed the attack effortlessly, and Krexthul prepared his response with telepathic commands to his fleet. Then the universe became very complicated. 17 different human weapons platforms opened fire simultaneously, from angles the Vorthak hadn't known existed. Kinetic impactors launched from hidden asteroid bases struck with mathematical precision. Energy beams from disguised orbital platforms found gaps in Vorthak formations that had been calculated months in advance. Most devastating of all, the entire human fleet suddenly changed direction in perfect coordination, their true positions revealing that the fleeing ships had actually been herding the enemy into a carefully constructed trap. The Vorthak telepathic network, so confident in its superiority, became a liability. Pain and confusion from damaged vessels flooded through their psychic links. Commands became contradictory, as different war singers tried to respond to attacks they hadn't seen coming. Krexthul felt something he hadn't experienced in decades, of conquest, uncertainty. How were these primitive creatures coordinating such precise attacks without any detectable telepathic communication? Their radio chatter remained chaotic and panicked, but their actions suggested a level of tactical sophistication that rivaled the greatest military minds in the Empire. Chen monitored the battle through her quantum link, feeling the pulse of thousands of human minds working as one seamless intelligence. This was humanity's true strength, not telepathy, but something far more sophisticated. They had learned to think together without losing their individuality, to coordinate without surrender of self. The Vorthak had built their empire on the assumption that telepathic communication was the pinnacle of military coordination. They were about to learn that assumption was catastrophically wrong. Warsinger Thexmore's desperate psychic cry cut through the command network. "My lord, we're losing 3 vessels on the outer perimeter. How are they targeting our weak points with such precision?" Krexthul felt the first cold touch of fear. These humans weren't just primitive creatures stumbling through space. They were playing a game he didn't understand, using rules he had never encountered. Worse, they were winning. Through the quantum network, Admiral Torres felt the shift in Vorthak confidence. Their psychic chatter had changed from amusement to confusion to something approaching panic. Elena's monitors showed enemy formations beginning to break apart, as individual war singers abandoned coordinated tactics in favor of personal survival. Phase 2. Torres commanded through the neural link. Every human vessel suddenly stopped, their seemingly random movements and formed geometric patterns of incredible precision. To the Vorthak, it appeared as if chaos had instantly transformed into order, as if the human fleet was a single organism revealing its true nature. Commander Chen felt the collective gasp of human determination through the network. This was the moment they had trained for, when humanity would reveal that their silence wasn't weakness but camouflage for the most sophisticated military intelligence the galaxy had ever seen. The second wave of attack struck with surgical precision. Human weapons found exactly the right angles, exactly the right timing, exactly the right weak points to cripple rather than destroy. The message was clear. Humanity could have annihilated the Vorthak fleet, but chose restraint instead. Krexthul finally understood. These creatures weren't primitive. They were invisible. Their coordination didn't rely on telepathy because they had developed something that transcended it. They fought not as individuals linked by psychic bonds, but as a collective intelligence that somehow maintained perfect unity while respecting individual thought. For the first time in his career, the warlord of the Vorthak Empire opened a communication channel to an enemy. Humans His voice carried across electromagnetic frequencies his species normally considered beneath notice. We did not understand. How do you coordinate your forces without telepathic communication? Commander Chen smiled as she prepared. Humanity's response. The real war was just beginning. The sound of victory. The response came not through radio or telepathic broadcast, but through something the Vorthak had never encountered before. Mathematical equations began appearing on their ship displays, followed by quantum-encrypted data streams that somehow bypassed their communication systems entirely. Most unsettling of all, the information was being delivered directly into their ship computers without any detectable transmission method. Warlord Krexthul stared at the impossible data flowing across his command screens. The humans were somehow communicating through quantum entanglement networks that operated faster than light without leaving any electromagnetic signature, but that wasn't the truly disturbing part. The data they were sharing included detailed specifications of every Vorthak vessel, complete tactical analysis of Empire military doctrine, and precise predictions of what the Warsingers would attempt next. Dr. Elena Vasquez watched the alien confusion through her monitoring arrays. They're trying to understand our quantum neural network, Admiral. Their telepathic abilities are actually making it harder for them to grasp non-psychic communication methods. Admiral Torres nodded, his mind linked to the collective human intelligence, coordinating the defense. Through quantum entanglement, he could feel the thoughts and reactions of every human commander from Earth to the outer colonies. Not telepathy, but something more sophisticated. Where the Vorthak shared surface thoughts and emotions, humans shared pure information, tactical analysis, and strategic insight without the noise of individual psychology. Commander Chen accessed the translation protocols that had been developed specifically for this encounter. Warlord Krexthul, you asked how we coordinate without telepathy. The answer is that we've learned to think together without forcing our minds to merge. Every human in this system is connected through quantum-encrypted neural interfaces, sharing information instantaneously across any distance. The implications hit the Vorthak command structure like a shockwave. Their entire military doctrine was based on telepathic superiority. They conquered species by overwhelming their psychic communication networks and forcing mental compliance. Against an enemy that operated outside telepathic ranges entirely, their greatest weapons were useless. Warsinger Thexmore's distress flooded through the Vorthak network. My lord, they're not just immune to our psychic attacks. They've been monitoring our telepathic communication since we arrived. They know everything we've planned. This was true. Human quantum sensors had been recording and analyzing Vorthak thought patterns for 3 days, building comprehensive psychological profiles of every enemy commander. While the aliens had dismissed humanity as primitive, human intelligence networks had mapped their entire command structure, identified personality conflicts between Warsingers, and predicted tactical responses with devastating accuracy. Elena's console lit up with intercepted communications. They're attempting to switch to encrypted psychic channels, but our quantum monitors are translating their thoughts faster than they can implement security protocols. The second phase of the human strategy began with what appeared to be a retreat. Half the human fleet suddenly accelerated away from the battle zone, their radio chatter full of panic about overwhelming odds. The Vorthak telepathic network buzzed with satisfaction as they began pursuit, expecting an easy victory over fleeing primitives. They had no idea they were flying into humanity's true demonstration of warfare. The retreating human ships led the Vorthak fleet directly through the asteroid belt, where 3 centuries of mining operations had left behind more than empty rocks. Thousands of automated mining platforms had been converted into kinetic weapons, their positions coordinated through the quantum network to create kill zones of incredible precision. But this wasn't about destruction. This was about education. Commander, Chen felt the pulse of collective human consciousness as the trap activated. Every piece of mining equipment, every hidden sensor array, every disguised weapon platform activated simultaneously. The asteroid belt became a 3-dimensional maze of controlled destruction, with human vessels weaving through patterns that would have been impossible without quantum-coordinated navigation. The Vorthak fleet found themselves caught in a demonstration of tactical precision that defied their understanding of warfare. Human ships moved in formations that seemed to anticipate their every maneuver, not through telepathic prediction, but through mathematical analysis of their behavioral patterns. Every shot was calculated, every movement choreographed to achieve maximum psychological impact with minimal actual damage. Krexthal watched in growing horror as his supposedly superior fleet was systematically outmaneuvered by creatures who couldn't even participate in galactic telepathic networks. His warsingers were panicking, their psychic chatter creating feedback loops of confusion and fear. Meanwhile, the humans continued their impossible coordination, moving like a single organism with thousands of minds. Impossible, he whispered, through the telepathic link. No species can achieve this level of coordination without shared consciousness. What are these creatures? The answer came through the quantum communication channel that had somehow infiltrated his ship's systems. Admiral Torres's voice was calm and measured. We're exactly what we appear to be, Warlord. We're humans who learned that strength doesn't come from forcing minds to think alike, but from choosing to work together while maintaining our individuality. Through Elena's monitoring station, the human command staff watched the psychological breakdown of the Vorthak assault force. Their telepathic network designed for conquest was proving inadequate for coordinated retreat. Individual war singers were making decisions based on personal survival, rather than fleet strategy, exactly as human psychological models had predicted. The third phase of the demonstration began with an offer that stunned the Vorthak command structure. Instead of pressing their obvious advantage, the human fleet suddenly stopped attacking and transmitted detailed specifications for quantum neural interface technology. This is how we communicate, Chen's voice carried across all frequencies. Not through forced mental contact, but through freely chosen information sharing. We're offering to teach you, not because you've surrendered, but because we believe the galaxy benefits when different species learn from each other. The gesture was so unprecedented that it temporarily paralyzed the Vorthak response protocols. In 3,000 years of expansion, no conquered species had ever offered to share their superior technology with their conquerors. More confusing still, the humans were offering this gift while demonstrating clear tactical superiority. Warlord Krexthal felt something shift in his understanding of warfare itself. These creatures weren't just fighting differently, they were thinking differently. Their entire approach to conflict was based on principles the Vorthak Empire had never encountered. The final demonstration came as human vessels began coordinating in patterns that transcended three-dimensional space. Using their quantum networks, they were processing tactical information through multi-dimensional mathematics, creating formations that appeared impossible to the Vorthak linear thinking. Ships seemed to occupy multiple positions simultaneously, not through advanced technology, but through information sharing so sophisticated it approached prescience. Elena monitored the enemy response with growing excitement. Admiral, their telepathic network is starting to adapt. Some of the war singers are attempting to understand our quantum communication methods. This was the breakthrough humanity had hoped for. The demonstration hadn't been about defeating the Vorthak, but about showing them that telepathic superiority was an illusion. Every species had developed different solutions to the problem of coordination and communication. None were inherently superior, but all could learn from each other. Torres opened the final communication channel. Warlord Krexthal, we offer alliance, not surrender. Your empire has mastered telepathic warfare, but you've never faced enemies who operate outside those parameters. We've mastered quantum coordination, but we've never faced enemies with your level of psychic sophistication. Together, both our species could advance beyond anything we could achieve separately. The response took several minutes as the Vorthak command structure processed this unprecedented proposition. Finally, Krexthal's reply came through both telepathic and quantum channels simultaneously. Humans of Earth, you have taught us that strength takes many forms. We came to conquer, but we have learned instead. The Vorthak Empire offers alliance not as superior to inferior, but as equals exploring different paths to the same goal. Commander Chen felt the pulse of human satisfaction through the quantum network. This had always been the true objective, not military victory, but mutual understanding. Humanity's greatest weapon hadn't been their technology or tactics, but their willingness to demonstrate that different didn't mean inferior. As the combined human and Vorthak fleets began coordinating joint operations, something new was born in the galaxy. Two species who had approached communication from completely different directions, learning that their diversity was strength rather than division. The silence that the Vorthak had mistaken for weakness had become the foundation for the most sophisticated interspecies alliance in galactic history, and in the depths of space, other civilizations began to reconsider their assumptions about what made a species truly advanced. The war that had lasted 3 days had changed the course of galactic civilization forever, not through conquest or surrender, but through the radical idea that every species had something valuable to contribute to the greater whole.